What's the most common questions you get from your clients?
Yeah, that's a great
Well,
question.
you have to remember that who I'm dealing with are employers, so risk managers or owners, business owners. So really, real quick, 20 years ago, workers' comp probably in the boardroom really wasn't talked about all that much. Now, when you walk into the boardroom, probably the first question that comes up is the risk manager is going to have to talk, and they're going to have to give an explanation as to why all this money from the company is being put in the workers' comp program.
Because workers' comp has gone way up, hasn't it?
Yes, medical costs have gone way up. Values of cases have gone way up. So, but
Talk a little
with
bit
that
about,
being said-
you mentioned this before. You mentioned about the, who is it that are administrators and where do they come from, right? 'Cause
Well,
you-
all the what you have to understand, because it's an administrative process at the Workers' Compensation Commission. So, all arbitrators, commissioners, chairman of the Workers' Compensation Commission are appointed by the governor.
Okay. And so in Illinois,
So obviously, if,
Illinois is pretty, especially Cook County, pretty pro worker, don't you think?
well, right now, I mean, yeah, definitely. Like if you have Dave Figlioli on here, he'd say probably about 4 or 5 years ago it was slanted and it was more conservative towards the businesses, but in reality, with the majority of Democratic governors that we've had, and the workers' rights and so forth, probably most arbitrators would be considered on a more moderate to liberal side when certainly looking at fact patterns and so forth.
And that's just a fact. That's just the way it works.
That's just the way it works in Illinois.
In Chicago, especially, that's just, and they.
But
there's a reality.
With the Workers' Compensation Commission, because the governor appoints all the arbitrators, it doesn't matter. So down south in Collinsville, where there's a workers' compensation call, out west in Rock Island, where there's it doesn't matter. You're going to have the same type.
I see.
The same type of arbitrators that are there. So
I can imagine that being a problem out in rural Illinois, especially with these smaller communities where maybe businesses don't have as much resources or funds compared to Chicago-based businesses.
I think I don't necessarily think.
Do you do any work outside of Cook County?
Yeah, we handle the whole state of Illinois. We have an office. We have an office down in Joliet. We do City of Joliet work. We have an office down in Springfield. So we have three offices in the state.
I did not know
Spoken
that.
like a true Chicago guy.
With our
Joliet,
I would have called it. I would have
God.
called that Joliet myself, but that's just my accent.
That's not part of Chicago.
It isn't.
I know.
It's a whole different
that's
world
Will
down in
County.
Joliet.
I know.
Come on,
I
I
know.
grew up down south in Glenwood and Orland Park, and
Oh, did you really?
went to Marian Catholic. So
Okay.
There we go. There we go.
I see you.
Now we just pigeonholed them.
I know.
We know more about Mike than we ever did before.
Yeah.
Villanova
What's your
undergrad.
shoes? Yeah.
There we go.
What's your shoe size?
That's my shoe size, 11. Sometimes 12, depends on the night before.
But anyway, let's go on a little bit about that, because I think that's so important that people understand that.
Yeah, well, no. I mean, it is here. Getting back to the questions that I'm most commonly asked is probably value of the case, length of the case, what my fees are going to be on the case. So do we really think, given the atmosphere of Illinois, given the atmosphere of the Workers' Compensation Commission, the arbitrators, the leanings, do we really have a chance to win this case?
That's right. Is it worth fighting? Because it's a financial decision.
Because you said, it's some of these cases last 3 years.
Oh, no. 3 years. Some of the cases last 5 years, 7 years, 10 years.
That's a lot of money.
It's definitely a lot of money in defense costs.
In defense, but needed. I'm not saying it's not needed, but the point is that it makes sense to sit down and go, what is the overall cost of this? Because we're going to be in court for 10 years.
Well, sometimes you can't help that, depending on the type of injury,
of course,
the medical that's involved, and so forth. So, but for the most part, you want to try. Those cases are probably another 20-25% of the caseload. So, and the other 75, you're trying to get resolution in a short period of time, not only for your client but for the whole system in general. So, and what we always say is, hey, with 30,000 cases being filed, Okay, there's there's plenty of work out there in a sense. And now, back probably 7 years ago, 8 years ago, I think 10 years ago, we were upwards of 40,000, 50,000 cases being filed.
So is that because it's just become harder to claim workers' comp?
You think the economy goes bad and more people get hurt?
No, I mean, let's be honest here. The atmosphere for business in the state of Illinois is not good. A lot of my clients have shifted their focus to, and they've moved their business to our neighboring states, Wisconsin, Indiana, Iowa, down in Missouri. So we have lost employers. You know, probably one of the biggest, and real quick, we're running out of time, I know, one of the biggest employers really, our workers are temp staffing in this state. Wow. Temporary
staffing. We're going to continue this when we're after a commercial break, but Opem Tax Resolutions are sponsor. I got to tell you that. 312-664-6649. Visit ChicagoTaxTeam.com. Mike Danielewicz put a pin in that. All right? The trusted attorney Mike Danielewicz put a pin in. We're going to talk about that right after the first break here on AM560.
The Answer.